Well, welcome back to yet another episode of our Transnet Talks. Conversations happening here on the sidelines of the Africa Mining Indaba for 2026. If you are only catching up now, well, you would have missed out on 2 days of amazing conversations that would have taken place with various executives of the Transnet leadership team, all of whom have been speaking to my colleagues Jeremy and Ayabonga to give us better context around some of the strategic changes, shifts, reforms, most importantly, the exciting opportunities that exist as Transnet is here on the sidelines of the Africa Mining Indaba. Well, this morning we look to continue the conversation, this time around with the Chief Executive for Transnet Engineering. No stranger to Transnet as a group, given the fact that she's previously served in various roles, with a capital allocation, with different aspects of the business. She's someone who's very familiar with the role, function, and strategic drive of Transnet, but this time zoning in her focus on the engineering unit. Bessie Mabunda joins us in conversation. Excited to speak to you. Good morning and welcome back, Mel.
Good morning, Gugu, and good morning to the audience.
I was actually teasing that we often speak to each other once a year.
Yeah,
And
at these events.
at this event in particular. And last year when I spoke to you, you were actually in an acting position
That's correct.
at TCB of engineering. So you're part of the leadership that's been appointed in order to drive this new strategic outcome. Maybe add some light and some description around what's the past year been like for you taking care of Transnet Engineering?
Yeah, it's been very interesting, a bit challenging, of course, but for me, it's been very illuminating. I think having been on the other side, so just before I was asked to assist in Transnet Engineering, I was on the TFR side. So I was actually planning the rolling stock, deploying that for service on the rail network.
Yes.
So having been a recipient of the service that are now actually performing on the other side meant that I had a lot of insight in terms of what are the things that, as the customer of Transnet Engineering, we were struggling with, where the bottlenecks were, and so on. So when I stepped into the road, I could already identify areas that needed to be looked at very strongly. And one of the key things was with regards to the availability of material for the repair of locomotives. I mean, if you recall, at the time when I actually started acting, we had about 394 long-standing locomotives that were out of service, which is obviously a lot of capacity that is off the rail, that is not available to move tonnages. So between my acting and since I've been appointed, one of the things we're working on is reducing the long-standing locomotives, which we have. We now scope out numbers. Yeah, so now we're hovering below 360. Obviously, we've done a lot of work and we're still doing a lot of work. Some of the things is just on the availability and the reliability of the locomotives. We are really struggling, and I think we are now showing better support, especially on the coal line and the ore line. And one of the ways that assisted us was the critical project that we're doing in Durban, which is the new build of the 23E. So I don't know if you know.
Tell us more. For those who aren't familiar with 23E, what is that? Why is it important? How does it work?
So it's a very good electric locomotive, AC, that actually can, with incorporating electronic control pneumatic braking system, you can actually deploy it on the coal line to pull the very long 208 wagon coal train. So this is a decision that we've had to make to deploy the fleet onto that line because of the challenges that we've been faced with the fleet that exists there, which is the Chinese locomotives.
Yes.
So
how will this improve efficiency, though? As you say, it's digitally enabled as well.
Yeah, so it's a very smart locomotive, and turnaround time is good, and because it's new. So when I took over, we were building around 24 locomotives a year, so that's about 2 a month. And we actually upped that throughput. And at the end of the financial year, we got to about 43. And this year, we even targeting to go beyond 50 a year. Our highest production in any singular month was in the month of November past, with 8 locomotives being released in a single month. So we've done amazing work on that.
Bessie, well done, because clearly you're not only doubling your targets here, but you actually want to go even further in terms of beating expectations. Just give us an understanding of some of the intricacies you've put in place to actually enable this enhanced level of productivity in the unit.
So one of the things was, obviously, there were challenges on our side. So we're doing this in collaboration or in partnership with an OEM, which is Alstom. So there were challenges on our side in terms of capacity. So this is human capacity. There were issues around just the flow of the workshops in terms of the workstations that we have there. So we've had to reimagine and reorganize the way in which work flows through the facility, and also institute what we call hospital stations, so that we can then do work ahead of production. And when there are challenges, we can move the locomotives to the hospital stations. We had a lot of issues on the OEM side, where there were component failures and I guess to some extent some challenges with the supply of components. And I guess to some extent it was because performance in general was just low at the beginning. So when we started upping the tempo, the supply chain was struggling. So we had to deal with quality assurance issues, quality control, and all of those kind of things. And I think we've come a long way to bringing in a lot more efficiency, as you've seen the improved production that we are showing now.
Definitely. Sounds like an exciting time for you and your team, right?
As an engineer, I am in engineering heaven.
I can tell managing your systems and processes, enhancing efficiency, beating targets that you've set for yourself. And one thing that really stands out for me is just this heightened level of collaboration that's taking place. Emphasize for us, though, some people might be thinking, okay, well, we've liberalized the freight rail environment, the private sector is allowed to participate, but rolling stock is a key enabler to actually make sure that this has a positive outcome. Underscore that for us. Remind us why rolling stock is critical to the liberalization of our rail recovery.
Yeah, so basically any railway capacity is a factor of a number of things. Number one is obviously the condition of the rail network that will allow slots and capacity to actually move the trains on the track. The second critical one is then the availability and the reliability of rolling stock. So the number of locomotives that you have, the number of wagons that you have, and the condition in which they're in. Because the locomotives combined with the wagons, that's what you use to build your train sets. And then your train sets is what actually move your freight tonnages. So that is quite critical. So if you then have rolling stock that is long-standing, that is not available, it takes away capacity, which is why we went as low as the 149 million tons of 3 years back.
Yeah.
And now injecting back more locomotives, more wagons, and better performing rolling stock has seen that we are now able to move. And we are hoping, obviously, our target 180 million tons for this year. We will see where we land, but we are moving a lot more volumes than we were moving a couple of years ago, because we are making rolling stock available, which is a key component to rail capacity.
Got you. That's important because, as we heard from a colleague of yours as well, Yolisa, quoting theme that was shared by Michelle as the group CEO, is that we leave no cargo behind. So you fix the rolling stock, you get the railway lines open, you get the private sector partners as well on board right across the spectrum, and that's how we're actually able to enhance the delivery that we have. Speaking of working so closely with the private sector, the OEMs that you touched on, enhancing the skills base, I'm quite keen, again, focusing on your rolling stock, if there is a standardization in terms of processes, equipment, efficiency that has taken place as well, and that has become a priority for Transnet.
Yeah. So generally what we have had to do is a lot of programs. So going from refurbishment programs in terms of bringing back locomotives back into operation. But we also have a lot of legacy fleet that is very old and has been in operation for some 40 years, some going close to 50 years. So,
but still of value because I can't write it off from people, right?
And we don't want to do that. So we've had to then deliberately look at what are new technologies that can be fitted into this. So renewal programs, modernization programs to actually beef up that fleet so that it can operate for another 30 years for